Hello. Everybody's so quiet.
Hey there.
Hi.
Sorry for this awful glare.
Yeah, AJ, it's like your head is glowing.
It's a halo.
Oh, I hate.
My Brooklyn office, not
Yeah, the glare's following you around.
yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get rid of it. Sorry. What if I just, like, I guess I could stand up? No, even that's not going to help. You'll just have to live with it.
It's fine. I didn't even know you had glasses till they started glowing.
Uh,
I hope
I
you're
do.
feeling better, Jim. You were sick the last meeting, I believe, weren't
That's
you?
right.
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
You're
on mute, Jim.
muted.
Oh, you're
Yes.
muted.
Is everybody muted?
Just me.
Oh, I
Probably.
can hear you. Yep, now we can hear you now, Jim.
I don't know if everybody got the joke, but I sent you that email. It was from Google Bard,
Yeah.
which Catherine did a search on Google Bard with my name on it. And Google Bard claims that I hold just about every office in Shutesbury. And I'm on all the boards, select board, library trustees, volunteer firemen, the whole.
Mhm.
In my spare time, which I can't believe I have any, I'm a hiker, avid hiker.
Yeah, you're a busy guy.
That was quite
should-
an example of AI.
It sure
Yeah.
is. There it is right there.
didn't
Artificial
know that about
stupidity.
Well, I mean, but those are all positions you've held at one point, I'm assuming, or another, right? No?
Oh, no. I was
No,
we had
okay.
every position, AJ, except for chief of
It's
police.
every single one.
Well, I guess when I read it, I had assumed that, like, over the years, like, you know,
No,
spent
no.
time on one of those committees. So.
They also said it was, according to that document, it was all I was currently all those things now.
Right, yeah, that's all that, yeah.
You could do
That sounds like Papa Doc or something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to be accused of being like the George Santos of Shutesbury or something like that. You say anything about volleyball? Star volleyball player from UMass? All right, let's see. Actually, now that I think of it, we're not getting George tonight, right?
Right, George is
yeah,
not
he mentioned
coming.
that. Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Right.
he's not available.
All right, so this is the whole crew for tonight. All right, so I'll call the meeting to order. And so you can scratch off the police. There was a brief moment where we were trying to squeeze in the police review tonight, but Kirsten's got a much better plan for tonight than meeting with us.
Yeah.
So I think
She couldn't dial in. She couldn't dial in from wherever she is, or
that would be a bad, I think, sign. Yeah, right. If she did that. All right, so we will. I think so. So one of the things we want to do tonight was start with our expense report review, because that has we've had limited time over the last few meetings, and so why don't we start there? And actually, I think we've got two. We've got the current year expense report, but then I don't know if folks had a chance to look at it, but Becky sent out the final expense report for FY23. So let's see. Why don't we start with? But let's start with this year's. We'll go backwards. We'll start with this year's expense report. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, Becky, could you give me privileges?
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Here we go.
I'd just like to say, my opinion, we just received the wrap-up expense report.
Yeah.
kind of like to study it and put it beside our current one to see, to try to interpret what it means, because I couldn't do that in the time that we've done
Yeah.
the things. So maybe can we put this off until next time? Or is that?
Well, I guess I think we could, but I think the other option would be we could sort of like start, if folks, I spent a few minutes with it, so I had a couple questions, and then we can
Yeah,
sort of,
okay. Fine.
we could do some questions tonight, and then at our next meeting, spend some time as well, for new questions. If that works for
sounds good.
folks. Okay, so this is, this is current year through, well, it says November 30th, but I assume it means today,
Yeah.
November 28th. Is that when this is run? Let's see. No, actually, this is through yesterday. So, if folks want to ask any specific questions or have any particular lines they were concerned about, and I just wanted to make sure. I thought we had. I may be misremembering. I thought we actually had already done one transfer from our reserve fund in this
I
year.
think it's, I must not have gotten it to Gail.
Okay.
It has
Could
to
you
go
just-
to Gail to get in. So
Do
I
you,
need
could-
to get a copy
do
of
you
it.
remember or do you recall what was that for? I can't. I was like having trouble remembering. Was that for the legal line or was there some other?
I don't think it was the
Gotcha.
legal line yet. We're gonna
Okay.
have to ask for that tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah, that was another line I flagged. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so this reserve fund expense line doesn't include a transfer that we've already made this year that just hasn't posted yet. Okay. Let's see. Anybody have any questions? Should we go right to legal? Because or Bob, why don't you start?
I have a list, but I don't know if that's the right
Yeah.
time to bring it up.
Yeah, why not? Let's
A
do
short
it.
list, but it starts with a question, just a question about the accountant on page 135, 520, 135, 52, 115 and 52, they're right together. And it's just,
Yeah.
the question I have is, the accounts certification, is that something that's done every year? Is that something that it has to recertify every year, Becky, or what?
Yes,
Becky?
the
Yeah.
accountant, the treasurer, the assessor, though, I don't think Kevin had gotten his certification, so we're just getting back to it. And the tax collector, all of those, and the town clerk is eligible. But all our financial people excluding, I don't think Ryan has his certification yet, but the accountant and the tax collector both have their certifications currently. And we'll be receiving them. We are double checking with David Burgess to find out if he needs his certification paid. And if he does, we will be paying that one.
Okay, so
But
they have
they're
to be
every
recertified
year.
every year, and they have to pay $1,000 to do that.
No, they don't pay $1,000. They get $1,000. They have to attend classes. through
Oh, I
their-
see. They get paid $1,000 for their certification.
Yeah, because that,
Every-
what it means, they have to keep their education up at a certain level and attend certain amount of credits every year to keep that certification up.
I understand now. So the line right below that, independent audit, I see on the wrap up of the spreadsheet of this the report, they didn't spend anything last year. Is that a revolving account that we're talking about with 14,000 in it?
Yep,
So
that's
that,
because last year we didn't have an audit, but we will, I have to check if it's the second or third, we're on a 3-year rotation.
Right.
So I
Every
think,
3 years, right? Yeah.
yeah, I think it might be, I have to double check. It's either this year or next year.
and I guess we'll be able to ask the assessors when they come before us, but there's a lot of stuff that was set up by Kevin that I'm not sure is going to continue, but a lot of these lines, like for example, the reval, and the personal property valuation down there on the group 3 assessors. utility valuations, and these are things we hired contractors. And there was some discussion about whether we could do this in-house or there's other ways to do it. So I'm just raising the issue here, not because I question these numbers, but whether or not that's going to be something we're going to be asked to fund this year or not when we meet.
Yes, he will be. All those things are required. The assessor's revalve year, we spend more on in some years than in other years. But all three of those will be in the current assessor's budget. And I've just been going back and forth with Leslie. We currently have, we might be able to reduce by about $2,000 on those lines, but we know once we're probably going to be working towards David Burgess coming on for more hours overtime.
Right.
And when that happens, we're going to need more money in the assessor line.
Well, we know that last year the assessor, the administrative assessor was underpaid. We had money left over in that line. So presumably we'll have money to spare from that line if it stays at the same level, right?
Well, it's not at the same, last year we had some consultants, but David Burgess basically volunteered for the major portion of last year and only took a $500 stipend.
Right. But we didn't spend the money though. We didn't spend the line.
It's right. So, but this year he's under, he's working 20 hours a month at $25 an hour.
Okay, I just brought the issue up with those lines because there's a little bit of movement, a lot of some dynamics in that sector right now. So maybe we'll be able to help.
There's going to be more dynamics as we move into the future, as we try to hold on to David Burgess.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the treasurer's assistant, is that something that when was that created? I mean, is that one of the? I thought that treasurer's assistant was Ryan, and he now is the treasurer.
No, when Gabe left, we created the assistant treasurer position, and she assisted Ryan on, she trained him. And on occasion at this point, we'll probably should this year reduce that to 500. Like when special new things come up for Ryan, he can reach out to her and she helps him, she assists him. If he needs help with a bonding question or different issues that come up, but I think we can reduce that now down to like $500.
Right. I understood that it was a transitional thing, so
yeah,
I brought it up. And the last one was just wanted to get it up. I suppose you're going to provide us with this from your remarks, but just for an update on the legal line. So I guess you'll be talking about that later.
Yeah,
that's all I have.
All right.
Oh, one last thing is the highway superintendent was spent 49%. I don't quite understand that because that's a little bit above everybody else's 41% or something.
What happened there is Tim was paid out for his vacation. And so he was paid over $6,000 for his vacation accrual that was paid out. So we're probably going to be, I think we're going to be a few $1,000s short at the end of the year, but because if Tim, it's going to be close.
Yeah, because the pay scale is a little different, right? I mean,
yeah. Steve's at 67,000.
Okay, that's it for me.
Okay, Susie?
A couple things. One, for the certification for the assessors, I know that with the certification for our accountant, she shares that with Pelham. Will we be able to share the certification for?
No, she does not share that with Pelham.
What does she share with Pelham?
They pay other expenses for her training. The classes she goes to, it's for the certificate, it's expenses for the certification, but not the cost of the certification itself.
Okay. And so the other thing is you were giving us sort of a sense of David Burgess's role in Shutesbury, and he services another town, is that right?
He works for through a company, RRG,
Mhm.
and through that company, he works for other towns.
Okay, so there won't be any expenses that he incurs that will be shared. It's just gonna come through the company, what they need to bill us for his. I
We
mean,
are not part of that relationship
right, so we'll just be paying him
directly.
directly, and it won't be for services he shares somewhere else. And you're saying currently he's 20 hours a month. Part of that is that the reval, the class 504, and the personal property valuation is subbed out to someone else. Is that work is subbed out to someone else?
Some of it he does, like he's been working on the reconciliation. I mean, he does parts of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Roy Bishop doing the lion's share of the work, but he is like the personal property services. There were a number of issues that he was working on reconciling. And so he gets in, and the reval, he didn't do the lion's share, but he did some of that.
So we're
He's
expecting to,
coordinating things that if he's not doing them, he's coordinating them.
right, and so we're expecting Roy Bishop to still be part of the picture in FY25.
Potentially, unless it depends on David, how much more he wants to take on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, anyway?
Yes, Becky, on page 8, the culvert, it is 87% spent. I was wondering if that's it, or is there more to come? Are we fully, have we fully paid that one off, or?
No,
No,
it's not, we have not received our final bill.
okay.
And we are anticipating, I have material costs that haven't been priced out. I don't know that they didn't know the exact numbers that they had used that will be in the final bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How big do you think that final bill will be, just out of curiosity? If you had to take a guess.
Now we're gonna, it was 850. Where are we now? What's the total we've got? 685. Yeah, we still I can't tell you. I need the final numbers. I need the final numbers from MAS, because all the quantities for the trap rock and everything that we had to get extra for that embankment. And there's a couple other things. So I can't tell you yet. It's gonna, we allocated full spending of the 800 and almost 850,000.
Jim wasn't here last week, Becky, but just updating you, Jim. The contractor needed to buy material because the native material wasn't suitable for backfilling.
Yeah.
So some extra material had to be billed as an extra. Is that right, Becky?
We had that, and we also had the trap rock on the outlet side of the dam. That embankment was collapsing, and there seems to be like a natural spring right there. And so there was a lot of extra trap rock installed on the embankment to keep it from eroding. And those materials are going to be part of the overrun.
Cool. Becky, can you tell me that the natural spring in an embankment by a dam doesn't seem like a very nice thing to me?
Well, the water was bubbling up.
Yeah, that's not ever a good sign in an embankment dam.
Well, it's on the other side. It's not where
Okay.
the dam
Well,
side.
hopefully the engineers are on top of that. Thanks.
Yeah. No, we're good. We're
You
good.
can have a spring bottled water, okay?
Jim Walton?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions on a couple of items.
Yep.
I guess the first is on page 2 toward the bottom. This is in the miscellaneous general government. And it's the vehicle fuel. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, right there, you got it. It looks like we're running high on that. Is that because of higher fuel costs, or
Yes.
are we going to be okay with this item? Or what do you think, Becky?
I guess it depends how many, how active we are through the winter. It's pretty close. We might make it if the prices go down.
Okay, that might be one that could be questionable.
Yeah. I'd
All
keep your eye on that one.
All right. Second one, in the school area and Amherst Pelham. So
You
that's
want
page
back-
3.
You
Page
want to go
3.
the other way?
I passed it, but, yeah.
Yeah, page 3. Halfway down, a little more than halfway down is the Amherst. Yeah, that debt line. It looks like there's are there any more payments on that? Will that be the end that what we've
No.
done so far?
No, unfortunately, this is what happens. Amherst makes the school committee will make a final adjustment and not notify Leverett and Shutesbury. So if I don't catch them or know about it, so I will try to talk to Doug was really busy this year. Sometime in the last couple, like 3 years ago, he did get me that change in that number, but I missed it this year.
So what does that mean? What does that mean? What should we be looking at here? Or what should we?
We budgeted $1,276 more than we needed to. That was
Oh,
the
okay.
original amount they quoted, and then they lowered it.
Okay, all right, got it. Thanks. And the only other one I had was on the last page of our expenditures, of our expenses. Page 5.
Yeah.
And yeah, the insurance and bonds.
And your question is, so that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
insurance line
No,
is
no.
also-
yeah, that line that's highlighted. Yeah, is that where do we stand on that one? Are we going to be at budget, or is this one
we'll
that?
be probably closer to budget. The insurance line gets used for a number, like if we have our drug testing gets done out of there, different things that apply to insurance, but that aren't our big premiums at the beginning of the year. We have a number of other things that flow through the insurance account.
Okay, so I guess, yeah, so what you're saying is most of the big premiums are paid, and there might still be some small items that'll pop up between now and the end of the year.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so why don't we talk legal? Legal expense line. So I'm assuming
As
that
you
there are
can
probably
see,
bills that haven't been paid, right?
well,
That are reflected here.
correct. That 5,000 needs to pay for one of the lawsuit legal bills.
Mhm.
And then we have another 1,700 from the same vendor that we need to pay, from the same lawyer. That's the lawyer that was brought on in addition to Donna McNichol to handle the lawsuit. So yes, so I would like to request a transfer of $10,000 for December and 2 weeks of January.
All right, and out of that 10,000, it sounds like about, I think from what you've already just said, there are almost 7,000 of it
Oh, you're right.
has already been is sort of owed for services already provided. Is that fair to say? Or?
Well, the five, actually, it's, no, it's 2,000 that is not covered.
Yeah.
Because the 5,000, we still, no, yeah, we still have
5,300.
5,000. That balance still is there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to cover all my legal bills. So you're right, I didn't calculate in that part. I'm
I'm
gonna
just wondering if
ask for 15,000.
all right, and but we should acknowledge that's not going to cover us through the end of the year. I mean,
Correct.
this is going to be a kind of an ongoing discussion. It sounds like all year. Is there any way at this point to have even a sort of rough estimate of what kind of our total legal expense is going to be for this year? I mean, it's just
It's so much is dependent on which way the lawsuit goes.
right. Yeah.
The one additional thing also is, the select board, with the Concom's appreciation is requesting McGregor to review the bylaw.
Mhm.
And that is part of what I'm planning for, because that has to happen in December.
Got it. Okay. All right, Bob.
Yeah, so if just continuing on this, Becky, when does the court, when does this go to court? Any idea? This whole thing about the solar
Potentially-
bylaw.
Potentially in June.
So this is all
think-
prepared for discovery and preparation of documents and so forth that we've been paying for?
And
So it's-
now they are just at the point of hiring experts. So they're going to have to hire experts and work with them, and each of those is going to be about 10,000 apiece. And then a continued activity, heightened activity with our 2 lawyers.
So realistically, I think you may have mentioned that there might be a special town meeting this winter. Because
January-
realistically, we gotta come up with a pretty good estimate and find a way to fund this out, because our reserve is gonna probably get depleted by these stuff.
That's why the select board is gonna put a warrant on an article for the special town meeting for legal expenses.
And there's no indemnity for this from the insurance that we carry?
The insurance is taking care of the other lawsuit. So the other lawsuit, we don't have as much, we don't have the ongoing lawyer bills. We only are paying the insurance company our deductible. And that
Right.
bill, there's an example of why there's room in the insurance line. Because I'm gonna get the $2,500 for that payment out of the insurance line.
I see. Yeah, this is a mess, isn't it?
Mhm.
Not too bad yet.
Okay, well, I'm glad I like your optimism.
There's still hope. Hopefully we will.
This case doesn't seem to have any prospect of being settled because it's not that kind of thing, is it?
Which one?
The case about the solar.
I can't answer your question, Bob.
Okay.
April.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we had any sense about the legal cost for McGregor to go through the Concom bylaws. Do you have any idea?
Not certain. I can't tell you for certain. I don't have a fixed amount, but it was talked about around a $5,000 figure was discussed. And we'll see how close we can keep to that. Yep, it might be over.
Thanks.
Susie?
For the special town meeting and the town considering how to pay potential legal costs, does that break into the political arena? Is there a role for the town, the people attending town meeting to vote a political solution?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what does that mean?
So for the special town meeting, it looks like it's going to be a warrant saying this is what the cost of anticipated or incurred legal costs to settle or to participate in the court case with Coles. Is that posed as a political question, like, no, we don't want to pursue this, or yes, we vote the money because we do want to pursue it? So does it ever become just a political question?
I think I could spin a scenario here. If the town decided to change the bylaw to satisfy, to remove the bylaw or alter it in some way that was acceptable to the parties bringing the suit, that would make it a political decision. Someone would have to make a proposal or some, have an item on the town meeting to do that. Then it would be a political decision. Right now, we've got the law, and I think the town has decided to defend the law, and that therefore they're going to need to fund the legal team to do it. If there was a article on the town meeting to withdraw the law or to change it and to make it satisfactory to the claimants, to the people that are bringing the suit, that would be a political decision. That's the only way I could see it being a political decision, Susie. You know what I mean?
I'm not clear where we are legally once the AGO tossed the law, the bylaw, that we have what I understand is what got passed at the 2020 town meeting. And I'm not sure if the legal case is against that one, or if it was it's straight ahead against that bylaw, the one that the town did pass. And
It has to be.
the AGO actually was, their decision on that one was, well, we're going to have to see how case law develops. They let it sit there, but it didn't mean that it was, it is our bylaw, but it's not, they already knew that there was some question. So we do have a bylaw, and Coles's case is against the bylaw that was passed in 2020. So the only political question is, if the special town meeting doesn't vote to spend the money, does that force the town to take a legal course of action that's different? And what would that be?
We would be in a position, I can't answer your question either, Susie.
Okay, I just don't know.
It's just a lot of speculation, and I don't want to slip and say things I maybe shouldn't have because of what I've heard in executive session.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just be careful. Yeah.
Yep, that's fine. I'm just trying to see if we actually, what that special town meeting will look like.
That's a good question.
April.
Yeah, I'm curious about who makes the decision. I know the town would make the decision around funding it, but who makes the decision? What body in our town? Is this a select board decision to planning board to pursue? Or
Town council is meeting with both with both the select board and the planning board,
okay.
and giving updates as the current status of. So yes, it would be recommendations potentially from the planning board, decisions from the select board.
Okay.
And this planning board might make some decisions too, because they could make some decision regarding the zoning bylaw that they might want to have a warrant article or not want to have a warrant article, or doing anything in January might be too soon, and they might want to, I don't know.
It's just alarming how much money we're spending on legal
It is.
bills at this point. It is.
It is.
Is there a way to stop it?
if the
Right.
special
Not a
town
good
meeting
feeling.
doesn't want to fund a
It's
measure.
not like spending money on schools. Yeah.
No, let's, spend it
If
on
the
lawyers.
town doesn't want to fund it, the select board could have to look for money from us or some other source, that's all, you
Yeah.
know.
Some other source,
right.
right? Yeah.
But we could choose not to authorize that.
Yeah, if the town refused to authorize any future legal funding, it potentially could force the select board to search for different solutions, for sure.
Maybe Becky, you could represent us in court, what do you think?
Yeah, that solution probably would be very costly in the end, Bob, especially for the suit I'd have to buy. No, I'm only,
And wear heels,
yeah, just like Donna,
right?
not.
Anyway.
Right. All right. So I guess I'll entertain a motion to transfer $15,000 from our reserve fund to the legal expense line.
I'll move that.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? Any questions, discussion? Okay. Let's go ahead and vote. We're missing George, so what is it, Bob starts
Yeah,
us off?
Bob Groves, aye.
Hemingway, I.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Stein eye.
Jim, you're muted.
Oh, Walton.
Sorry, Walton, I.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. So is there paperwork that we'll need to come in to sign for that?
Yep, I'll get
okay.
it.
Yeah,
done.
if you want to shoot us an email when it's, I guess, in the box, then we'll make our way
Okay.
over. Okay, cool. All right. Anything else on this year's expense report?
Yeah, I had just one general question,
Sure, go ahead.
just for Becky. Becky, is there anything that we did not discuss as far as line items that you think we should be aware of or you want to point out?
No,
Okay, thanks.
thank you.
I should have asked this earlier, Becky, but Lenny's going to be coming on at 7:15, right? Is that his?
I will remind him.
Okay, great.
I don't
All
know
right.
if he was aware of that. Did you talk to him about the time, Jim?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought so.
And he talked about 7:30.
Oh, okay, sorry. Wait, did I?
Yeah, he's got a meeting,
Okay.
I think with fire chiefs. Does that sound like the right kind of meeting, Becky, that he's in?
Tuesday night, yeah.
Yeah, he's
Okay,
in with the
that-
fire chiefs. But he's
that's fine.
he's quite sure he can be with us by 7:30.
That's totally fine. We've got other things to discuss, so we'll continue on with the agenda, and we'll just, when he comes on, we'll pause and talk about the fire department budget. Okay, so since we're talking expense report, why don't we look at the final FY 23 expense report and see if, I know, at least have some preliminary discussions about it or questions about it. And then we can also entertain some more at our next meeting. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I forgot, Becky, I wanted to ask you for an update on on the building committee sort of expenses that we allocated at town meeting last year. If there was any kind of developments in terms of their spending down that budget line, and then any kind of any update on any of their projects that they had planned to implement with those funds?
The town hall windows are in. That's, I think that cost was gonna be about $5,700. They're Pella windows. And it took forever to get them installed, but they did a really nice job. And now the town clerk can lift up the window and it stays there. It's not trying to crush her arms or snap her head off. It's such a wonderful thing. Yeah. The last
That's
thing,
great.
after Susie left, Grace was getting assistance from one of our officers, Nate Massey. And between the two of them, they dislodged the frame and the window, and we were never able to open it up without hammers and all kinds of stuff again. So we're very grateful to have the new windows in.
And was that expense, is that sort of represented by this
Yep.
$5,700, okay, got it, all right.
Yep, that's it. And then you'll
Okay.
be seeing a $9,000 expense for design work for the initial stage of the design work at the school. And then there'll be like a $1,500 bill because we had to have it again every time we start these projects. We need to do evaluation of the different layers for asbestos. And so that had to be done too. So you'll see about $10,000 more coming through shortly.
Okay, and then that's kind of the next project to come out of that fund. Okay. Got it. All right. Okay. So were there any lines in the final FY23 budget that folks wanted to ask about? We talked a little bit about the assessor's line already, which has about over $16,000 unspent funds, and then the reval. Okay.
And we did find, yeah. I think we could find. Huh.
I was curious about the town collector's budget coming up about $7,000 underspent. And it looked like a big chunk of that was their
The
Ellen's
assistant,
expense line.
yeah. And
Do we have
also that,
Becky,
yeah,
I'm just remembering, we did provide Ellen with new software. So there was some savings that we created when we, at a special town meeting, had an article that provided a new software system to the town collector. I think that has something to do with this. Ultimately, we spent more on that line, if you count that amount, because we did pay out of that article, we paid, I think, quite a bit of money to get our data extracted from the old system too, but that didn't come out of her budget. Is that true, Becky?
I think that's true, yeah. But I
Okay.
think, and I can ask her what, because I remember her saying that she had gotten a good deal on something, or something hadn't cost as much, but this looks like more than that. I'll just find.
Yeah. I mean, these kinds of questions about like when we've got sort of a line that's underspent by a significant amount, I suppose we could also address those questions to the relevant department head when we meet with them for their budget review as well. So this is the kind of thing we might want to just also kind of come back to before we do these.
This is the
budget
place
review
to find them,
discussions.
AJ.
Sorry, say again?
This is the place to find those anomalies.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And I don't know, from my perspective, I think the question becomes, is this an anomaly? You know, like, is this underspending kind of an anomaly for a particular year, or is it something that we can, is it something that we think is likely to repeat itself, in which case is that, should that prompt a discussion about whether we want to make an adjustment to that specific line in the upcoming year's budget? So at least that's kind of the way I would look at these cases. All right. If there were any others. I was curious about this. Police wages were underspent by $36,000, which is a big number. And then I sort of had a vague memory that we saw something similar last year, but I didn't have a chance to actually pull up last year. So
I think
Any
what
thoughts about
really
that? Yeah.
hurt. I'm sorry, AJ.
Yeah, no, please go ahead, Becky.
What really hurt there is when we lost the third full timer, and
Yeah.
when she left, it took quite a while to replace her. And in fact, we
Yeah.
really just we thought we had at the end of the year, but that person didn't work out, and now we have so we're just now back up to 3 full timers again
Got
as
it.
last month. So yeah, it's hard to keep.
Yeah, so it's a
One off.
staffing shortage.
Yep.
Right,
And
got it.
luckily she's able to find new people, but turnover is a big issue with department.
Yeah.
Becky,
feel
when
like
did the
that-
contract, when did Chris's contract start? What, during the year last year? It was to the middle of the year, wasn't it?
No, her contract started the very beginning of July 2 years ago.
Okay, time flies.
Susie.
And I was gonna say that that line has always had some money left over because it always has a staffing problem and the
Yeah.
turnover problem. And it's still correct in my mind to project 3 full timers that will spread out the work and make it easier for people to do their work, but it will come up short. It will come up underspent because of trying to keep people in there.
Yeah. Do we think that, and it does seem like that staffing issue seems to be like, I mean, I know it's an issue across departments, across municipalities, but it seems like this police department is like particularly affected by this, at least in recent years. But at least that's my perception. But okay.
Not just recent years, AJ.
Yeah, no. So I guess that's your point, CZ, is that this is really
Right.
something that's just
Yeah.
kind of the nature.
You can ask Wendell, Leverett, Pelham,
Yeah.
they're all, you can see it in the
Yeah.
turnover they have. It's very hard to keep people out here.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I assume this $22,000 I'm sort of highlighting here, that's the sort of the expected, anticipated effect of Walter's retirement and kind of the new salary for
Yeah.
for Lenny, or new, yeah, okay. So that's kind of a seniority thing. All right. I was wondering about this one here too, as well, the dog officer. So I assume this means we did not have anybody in that position last year. Or is that
You're looking
that
at the
right?
tree board. Oh, where are you?
no? This one here,
Okay.
dog officer. Looks like there's.
But it says constable. No, the dog officer is up 5 lines.
Oh, I see. Got it. So why is this?
It's total group includes a
Yeah, it includes.
The
it's
fire.
Group
just
3.
scrambled
Alright.
lines.
I see.
So the
got
dog
it. So this.
officer was paid. The balance is 0, and $151 of expenses were paid.
All right. So
154.
This is
this-
the tree warden. the tree warden.
So this balance is really about the tree warden, right? Yeah. Got it. Okay, sorry. So that was a labeling thing that confused me. I see now. Yeah. So this is largely this 4,000, roughly $4,500 for a tree warden. That's that didn't happen last year, but we've got somebody in that role this year. Yeah.
Our highway superintendent is now
Yeah.
the tree
Steve
warden.
is right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been folded
Okay.
into
Got
that.
it. That makes sense. Okay. Let's see. I think those were the main things I wanted to ask about. Does anybody else have any other lines or questions about the end of year
And
budget?
I
An
noticed,
expense report?
AJ, you had
Yeah.
the veterans highlighted,
Yeah.
and we did not have any cases this year outside of that
Right.
$135.
Yeah, so I think that's something that we want to just kind of keep in mind when we meet with Ryan. See what his proposal is for that line for next year. That's kind of good information to have. Bob.
Is that a revolving account or is that money going back into free cash?
That's going back into free cash.
So then we just fund it, and in case something comes up, we just have to have some flexibility, and we can fund it out of free cash. I mean, why not? It's going in there now we've already funded it.
Well, you only have I mean, it's something that has to be paid timely. So
Right.
we would have to go to FinCom reserve potentially. I mean, you only have a certain amount of time. When the benefits do come through, you have to pay them within a certain day in the month.
Right.
So
Yeah, I understand.
But
until
Becky-
you have them and then they come in.
Becky, my memory is that we've often had this exchange with Ryan where, he's suggesting that we budget for, anticipating that like two people will apply for those benefits as opposed to one person, and we're sort of like usually pushing back and saying, well, it's probably more likely that it would be one, and in the event that we have an unusual case where two people apply for it, we can use FinCom reserves or some other sort. Am I remembering all of that right? Is that
Yep.
the right context for this? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So I guess what I'm suggesting is that if Ryan comes to us with kind of a proposal to fund that line, anticipating two or more people are going to apply for those benefits, I think we should bring up kind of this pattern that we've seen where it seems like it's pretty unusual for more than one person to apply for those benefits, and in this case, we didn't even have anybody last year.
And we can get, the other issue is we can get a number from the vets. We're supposed to be given the number, but I've never
Right.
gotten it without asking. And this number usually, it had been at 85 or 100 for a while. That had been the suggested
Right.
number.
And then it came down, right?
And then it
I
came
remember that,
down
yeah.
after we hadn't had them. So,
Right.
but to delete it is really, I mean, I think having
Right.
it because of the timing requirements that you have to pay the vets in a specific window.
Right, it's prudent, yeah.
It's prudent to have this here.
Okay, let me go to Jim Walton and then Bob.
Yeah, to your point on that, AJ, what about having Ryan or whoever, when he presents what his proposal is for this line, go back through 5 or 6 years of history and see what the actual expenses were. And then maybe
Yeah.
we have something that's in line with the last 5 or 6 years of expenses.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
That's-
Maybe I can, George and I are sort of like the kind of liaison assigned to Ryan. So I think that's actually a good suggestion that we can ask him to just kind of check on sort of recent history of that line.
Because the amount you have to pay varies by the profession or the
Right.
that the person is unemployed from. So there was one
Right.
year we had to pay 20-some thousand just for one person.
I see. And
So
that was
it's
somebody that was
highly
at a
variable.
senior.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it depends
got
who
it.
moves into town.
Got it. But the number that we're given is probably some kind of an average of like kind of the average
Yeah, it's an estimated one that the
former
vets
employee. Yeah, right.
put together.
Got it. Okay, Bob.
I just wanted to be clear, what I suggested was not to zero up the line, but it was to fund it from free cash instead of from, because we've done that to other parts of the budget. If I just think we did study the sort of at least the short-term history of this line last year when we put that number in. And we did actually have a discussion with Ryan at that time to reduce his suggestion, his recommendation to the level here. So if, okay, it's fine if it just comes back to free cash and we fund it at this level or whatever. But I was just suggesting maybe if we're not gonna, it's not really likely that we have an expense that we don't have to fund it from the tax base, we could fund it from cash if it's gonna go back there anyway. That's all I was suggesting.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, let's sort of put a pin in that because I think I will ask Ryan to just give us kind of a, like at least a 3-year kind of history of that that line, and we can reflect on that when we meet with him. Okay. Any other, Susie?
Some of that information is available in our budget sheets we get. You can look back for 3 years actual. And sometimes I think, we could be willing to do that work instead of asking other people to do it.
It's actually 4 years you can look back.
Yeah.
At actuals in last year's budget, the purple budget.
Mhm.
And I have copies of the purple budget for those who no longer know where theirs is.
Right.
I'm happy to share them when you come in.
So I guess
Transfer points.
I guess what so I think that's a good point. I think what that's going to give us, right, is our dollar amounts of how much we expended in each of the last 4 years. Some of the nuance, Becky, that you alluded to, where it's like it might be useful to know how many individuals are kind of are receiving those benefits in each of those years, and that might be kind of useful information as well. And I suspect Ryan is the person that would have that information. No,
I don't think so. I think you'll have to go to
Becky
Al
does.
Springer.
Okay, got it. All right. Any other questions, April?
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
had
go ahead, April.
an observation. It looks like we didn't spend about $257,000 total in our budget. And I'm curious how that measures up over the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, is that typical? Is that atypical?
It's more typical.
Okay. Because it doesn't seem that
You-
far.
The huge thing, I mean, there's big accounts that account for that, but the little accounts, we don't have departments like you saw Ellen's budget line. Our departments don't live in fear of having their funding eliminated if they don't spend it.
Right.
That kind of threat to budgets, make sure that you don't have as much carry forward. That's a good thing. It's a great thing. And I hope the town can continue to have that kind of respectful relationship with all their departments because it makes a difference.
I guess your point, April, was that like what being sort of at 96.6% is kind of not that far
No.
off of what the kind of
Exactly.
proposed the
Yeah.
funded budget. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm asking, is any of that 257,000 roll forward money?
Yeah, so it's not actually. Yeah. So it's not
Not all
actually.
going to free cash. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Any last questions about this? All right. Hi, Lenny. How you doing?
Good.
Thanks for joining us. This is a late night for you of meetings. I hear you were just in another meeting before joining us.
Yes, thanks a lot for letting me do it at 7:30 instead of 6:30.
Oh,
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so we can just dive right into it. And I think in some ways this is a pretty straightforward discussion because I'm looking at your budget request and this looks like it's totally level funded. So is there anything you wanted to just kind of say or any context you wanted to share with us kind of about your thinking about FY25?
Not really, other than I think I can do. I think I can do next year's the same as this year's. I've survived one full fiscal year here, so I'm just kind of started on the second one. So I kind of wish you guys gave me like 6 months to put the next year's budget together, but I do realize that you guys get these and then it takes time for you guys to go through this and submit it for town meeting. So I understand why you want. Yeah, I understand why you want this done now. It would just be nicer for me if it was 6 months from now, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so as for this budget, I think I should be fine with it as long as nothing unforeseen happens. I have I don't know about a long-term capital needs. If you guys ever want to go over that, I gave that to Jim Walton the other day. I don't know if he sent it to you guys or not.
No, I held off on that, Lenny. I thought I'll leave that up to you how you wanted to present that.
Okay.
But I think before we get into that, we probably still want to spend a little bit more time on the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the capital, it should be going to the capital plan committee,
Yep.
not here.
Jim Walton, I think what you could do is if you could forward that to Bob and I, because we also sit on the capital planning committee and we can forward that to our colleagues. I don't think it's necessarily, a bad idea, Lenny, for you to sort of give the finance committee just any sort of highlights or any kind of big upcoming things. I mean, even though ultimately the process sort of requires the capital planning committee to review that first. But
yeah,
I think it might be worthwhile because Lenny went through a process on his own. It might be worth him just putting up what he has, not so much for the content and the details, but just more, his process and what he's done. There might be some of it might be applicable to what goes.
I think we should do that. Before we dive into that, are there any questions about the operating budget here?
As for now, I think I should be okay. I appreciate you guys taking the SCBA, the fire hose replacement, and the turnout gear, and just rolling that into equipment. It's a lot easier to manage the funds when I can just buy equipment with it rather than always have to buy air tanks or always have to buy hose. So already I had to get a pump for the brush truck, so that would basically canceled out the air tanks, fire hose, and turnout gear automatically, so I wouldn't have been able to do that all of a sudden without that being done like that. So
I mean, we've been having some discussions about how to sort of offer departments some sort of helpful kind of flexibility, and so it sounds like that's kind of happened for you with this with specifically with equipment expenses. I guess, Becky, is this something, should we be asking Gail to basically eliminate these other 3 lines from our budget? Or do we no longer need them now that we've sort of done this consolidation? So like the air tanks, fire hose replacement, turnout gear, do we need those lines in our budget anymore? Since we've sort of rolled that into equipment.
I need them in here just because of the history.
I see. Got it.
But Gail could get rid of them in the expense report, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this seems like if there's a reason, it needs to sort of we need those placeholders in the budget, even though they'll be zeroed out. That's fine, but otherwise, it seems like might as well take it out. But
Well,
okay,
yeah.
Jim. Yeah.
Yeah, when Lenny and I sat down and we were going through this, one concern that Lenny had was about inflation. And Lenny, you talked about you see some of your bills that they're higher than they have been in the past. And
Yeah.
if you look in this explanation, like you talked about a concern for inflation in following years. What I suggested to Lenny is he not put an inflation factor in here, and it's a flat budget, flat line. And that we talk about it as a finance committee, because whatever factor we put in here would apply to across areas. It wouldn't be just a fire department type topic. So that's just something for us as a finance committee to have in the back of our mind. If we are, inflation has been out there, and it's really we're going to have to at least consider what impact that'll have on our budget process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not just for fire, but for all the areas.
Right. Yeah. Any departments that are spending money on equipment and services, and Susie.
And there's two parts. One is that this is a level services budget. So things may show higher expenses in order to maintain the service levels. And so when Lenny said that he spent the money for the pump for the brush truck, he would get to say that in order to maintain the level services, they may need some more money for some of the expenses that he emptied out in that line. And that, I agree with Jim Walton that there might be a inflation factor, and it might take a little while to get some of that information together, what is generally happening for inflation. But I think it's also important for Lenny to understand that we're not saying it has to be level dollars. We're saying it has to be level services. So no engaging big projects, but maintaining the projects you have. And on this chart, I don't see the training, and I can't remember if there's a separate way that the cost for training shows up, but I have seen some good recruitment efforts. And so I wondered if there's anticipating some more training costs.
So I was under the impression we don't talk about training and call wages on this meeting.
Okay.
I can pull the,
And you're correct, Lenny.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was some increased cost for equipment or turnout gear because you were training more people, but will that show up under just equipment in general?
Well, we got 3 new firefighters. They started in March or April, and I'm writing a grant for turnout gear for them. So if we get it, that would almost cover for 3 firefighters for the grant.
Great. Thank you.
So I think we would luck out big time if that were to work out. Because it's like
Who administers those grants? Can you share us?
Well, I had a friend help me write it out, and I guess I just got to wait to hear back from them through the AFG grant. So yeah, I got quotes for the gear and submitted it, and then I got an email back stating everything looks good, and they're still going to make their decision on who gets what. So the gear, turnout gear is labeled at a higher priority than other stuff. So hopefully that gets more of a priority than, other stuff. So hopefully we get most of the funding on that. So.
Excellent.
Great. Well, Lenny, I mean, as a finance committee, I mean, we really appreciate you looking for grant support for some of these expenses. That's awesome. So good job. Hopefully, fingers crossed that comes through for you guys. Okay, Bob.
Oh, you're muted, Bob. Bob, you're
You may be
muted.
aware of this, but there's a big lawsuit that's emerging or being pending, firemen all over the United States against local governments and state governments because one of their issues is that turnout gear has PCPs in them and PFAS in them, I mean. So just be aware that's an issue going forward when you go to buy this gear, that the PFAS issue is coming to the fore, not just because these men or people, I should say, handled the chemicals, but that their clothing, which is fireproof and waterproof and so forth, had a lot of PFAS and contamination and has been the subject of suits being brought against fire departments and governments. So just read about that in the newspaper the other day.
Sorry, go ahead, Lenny.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I would say we're not a full-time department, so our exposure to the gear is less than a full-time department. And the other thing is we're supposed to have gear. So what are we supposed to do? Not have it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So as far as I'm concerned, firefighters are supposed to have fire gear, and I'll let the lawyers or somebody else figure that out. But yeah.
Jim Hemingway.
Yes, Lenny, what is the status of the conversion in Franklin County of the emergency network that links all fire departments together, which has been, I guess, up to now in an analog situation, over to digital, which the state was supposedly going to cover in full, and it wouldn't cost us anything. I was wondering where we are in that drama.
I think it's working out okay. Right now, in Franklin County, we use the 800 system, which is basically the state police of all Massachusetts uses it. And Franklin County is allowed to have a whole bank of radio channels off the 800. So the western part of Franklin County is all digital. The eastern part, which included Shutesbury, is analog. And they're switching the other half over at some point to digital. Now, the radios, all it takes to transfer them over to digital is just a reprogramming. So all I'd have to do is just go down, probably most likely take all the radios down to South Deerfield and get them reprogrammed. So that wouldn't cost anything. The pagers, when we go to digital, we're going to have to get new pagers, and Walter set up a grant and then never heard about it. And now it's looking like we're going to get 12 pagers that can do the digital or the dual band, what they call. So hopefully we wouldn't have to come up with any money for pagers on that.
So the state hasn't sort of changed their tune or backed out of the support that they, at least from what I remember, having gone with Walter to some of these meetings. A while ago, the state said, we'll pay for everything in the conversion. I just wanted to be sure that situation was still listed.
The pagers are, I think they're about, don't quote me on the price, but they're going to be about $700 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have 10 members or 12 members, that's a fair amount of money. The one other thing to think about is we already got like $100,000 worth of radios, through the grant that was basically 100% funded. So it is what it is. I've heard a couple things stating that we're going to get the pagers by the end of this year. And now after this meeting, I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't know. I'd like to go back to one of Susie Mosier's questions about new firefighters training.
Yep.
And so pretty much everybody comes to training every Thursday night. We do about 3 hours of training. We cover numerous topics throughout the year. And when we get a new firefighter, there's certain other trainings that they mandatory have to do. So when we get a new firefighter, I would prefer them just to do our regular training and see what we do and slowly get on the department that way, rather than The new first responder is, I believe, about 30 hours of training. I sent them to the Franklin 6, which was another 30 hours of training. And if you're really looking at the dollar cents, I mean, we're looking at an extra 60 hours of training for one new firefighter, plus, $4,000 worth of turnout gear. So just getting one firefighter, one brand new firefighter in through the door, you guys can do the math pretty quickly that it can be a pretty expensive endeavor for the town. And we
That's
don't
not
even,
counting the insurance they have to go
yeah,
through.
we don't even know if they're going to work out. We have people that come for 6 months and then kind of disappear. And so that's kind of why I'm kind of slow on getting people to the first responder and the firefighter level of training, just because it's a fair amount of money already invested in the person if they just walk. It's happened in the past, not when I was in charge, but certain people have been through, long trainings and then left the department. So I try to prevent that, but it's also hard to say no, you can't join the fire department because we're too cheap to do it. So it's darned if you do, darned if you don't.
Yeah, I just want to mention they have to go through a physical it's the insurance line. It's about $540 for each firefighter.
Bob.
Yeah, just briefly, I want to say, Lenny, I don't know if you put any thought into this. I'm sure you have, but we were just talking about the police department and the difficulty of keeping full-time officers there. And you're saying something similar about, and Walter has too. I've seen this trend since I've been on the FinCom, that we've been paying more and more per fireman or fire person and having a harder time recruiting and having a harder time in holding on to them. Have you put any thought into some alternative configuration for the town or for the small towns, like maybe having more full-time, fully compensated people that were shared or something like that?
Are you saying shared to another to another town?
Yeah.
I believe there's going to be a regionalization study done at some point. I just sent the Leverett chief back an email stating I was interested in it. So somebody actually might come to you guys and get just for an interview. Sometimes I think that works, and sometimes I think it doesn't. When you have somebody in town, they're going to be more invested in town, and they're going to most likely respond to that town more so than having to go to another town. Especially if that other town doesn't have a department. Why are you going to get up in the middle of the night to go to the other town if that town doesn't do it themselves? So you got the kind of the people factor on that one there. One of the reasons why things are a lot more expensive is like 30 years ago, there really was no first responder, certification. NFPA didn't really have that much, nobody really followed along on a lot of that stuff. So it's just pretty much a show up in a couple of weeks. You'll get a pair of boots and a jacket and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And those times are long gone.
Yeah.
So, and it is what it is. I mean, the amount of stuff we're supposed to cover here is it's almost not even possible for a full-time department. Sometimes I feel like that. So,
Yep.
Would it be better if we shared it multiple towns? I mean, we kind of do with mutual aid for bigger calls. Well, if we have a fire or chimney fire, we'll have another town show up. We can go out to another town if it's like a motor vehicle with entrapment, So we do mutual aid to different towns. Just that's majority of our calls. We stay in town.
Yeah, I just brought it up because it's an issue that occurred to me. Then I'm not advocating it right now, but just something to think about.
Yeah, I've thought about it. Yeah, I mean, it would have to be presented to me very well for me to kind of go along with it. It's kind of you got a system that's fairly working, I think, fairly decently right now, and I don't know if regionalization is going to be any cheaper, and you also potentially be having less response times if you're going to rely on somebody 2 towns away. we show up to just about most medical calls, and we're on scene for around 10 minutes before the ambulance shows up. And that's kind of the whole point of the fire department, in my mind, is the initial, 5, 10, 15 minutes of the call, not like an hour or 2 hours after the call happens, So that's kind of where we kind of bring the value to the people.
Thank you.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Susie.
I was wondering, Lenny, if you know of any other departments in the valley or around the valley that have done regional agreements, regionalization.
Every kind of like almost with mutual aid, regionalization is already done.
Yeah.
Now, is it regionalization with like you physically removing a fire department and putting one in the middle of 2 towns? I don't know of that. So, yeah, I don't know. I know like Wendell and New Salem, they share a fire chief. I know that. You can talk to them on, how that's going. I'm sure it's fine.
In
So,
mutual aid, do you get paid by the other town that you respond to?
no.
Who's doing this regionalization study? Did you get any information about that? Or?
I haven't gotten much information other than the chief from Leverett's trying to put it together. So that
Okay, so I see. So it's being spurred by Leverett specifically.
Yeah. Yep.
That is a question they're interested in. I see. All right. Any other questions for Lenny? Lenny, do you want to take a couple minutes to share this kind of long-term capital?
Yeah. There's one other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to get it on this. I don't know if Jim Walton could put it up.
Yeah,
Jim,
I have it.
Do you have quick access to it? If I gave you
I
permission
can
to
hold
share
it here,
screen?
but I don't know if that'll
Yep.
work for you guys.
No. I think
Yeah,
what
that
I'll
would
do
work
is,
if you give me access.
You have
okay, I
it.
think you have it now.
I gave you access.
Oh, I do?
Yep. Yeah, Jim,
Okay.
you can, if you have it up on your screen, you can.
Okay, let's see if
share.
I can, all right, let's see, go back to Zoom. And then I go to share screen. And where is that? Okay, maybe here. All right,
Oh,
can you see
nice.
that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
So
Perfect.
before I forget, there is one other thing I didn't put on there, but it's not. I would like at some point like to entertain the thought of putting in like a very large water tank at the elementary school.
Cool.
And I've heard I'd have to get more information, but it's roughly about $1 a gallon for a tank. So like a 30,000 gallon tank would be about $30,000. I talked to Steve at the highway department. He said they would be interested in putting it in. So I wouldn't really pay on the excavation side of things. And basically right now there's no water supply at the school. So if the school is on fire, the only water we really have would be the water we have on the trucks. And it's a large wood frame structure. So that's one thing that I'd like to put on there at some point. So I forgot to put it on. And other than that, this is pretty much what I'm thinking of.
Lenny,
Right.
could you add that and then send it to me and the capital planning members? So
I
I can
guess-
update the capital plan with this stuff.
I guess I could try it right now. If I can remember how to put the little boxes in.
I don't think you can change his. This is on Jim's screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for purposes of this meeting, Lenny put this together. He had a couple of categories here that seem pretty helpful. You know, how much
Hmm.
service life is left, which that translates to when he forecasts the need for that investment, the replacement
This is great.
values he's got in here, and the function.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hmm, it does.
I wonder where you're gonna put that water tank at the school, Lenny. There's very little room over there.
Basically at the end of the driveway between that and the roundabout.
That's gonna be high enough there to give you enough elevation, put it on a stand or something?
It'll be below ground.
Yeah. Oh, wood. I see.
Yeah. Yep.
And you can pump out of it, right? It's a reservoir.
Yeah, we would pump out of it. So,
Cool.
Not like the old days, Bob. They have pumps now.
Really, that's cool.
yeah, you can't. Yeah, this won't be compatible with buckets.
All right, so Lenny, do you want to give us a little background on kind of your process for putting this list together?
Let me. I'm just putting a couple. This is kind of not really this isn't really that great right here, but I could send this. Stupid thing. Why won't it let me do it? I could try to send this to you guys or Becky right now
Yeah, well, later's fine.
Yeah, you can send it later. That's totally fine.
all right, because I could just slide this over right now and
But isn't this on Jim's screen?
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just adding one line to it.
yeah, he'll send it for us to share with the rest of the capital planning committee.
Jim will send it to us.
Yeah.
And that's going to include the 30,000 gallon tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably the best insurance policy for the school.
Yeah.
They lower their
Yeah.
cost of insurance.
You would hope so.
Elaine, if you just want to send it to me, because you have my email, and then I'll send it to, I can send it to AJ and to Bob.
Yeah, that's great. That's all we need.
No, it's not all.
Yes,
Oh,
Dr.
and Becky? And Becky?
I'd
Mhm.
appreciate that. Thank you,
Okay.
Jim.
Oh no, I wasn't counting you as part of we. You need to get a copy too. I'm sorry for not mentioning that.
It's okay.
I'm on the mailing list because I did all this homework into the fire station washing machine. I get emails from all these companies selling me all this gear every day that I have to deal with, all kinds of firehero.com and all the stuff.
That's quite a range of expertise you have there, Bob.
I know, it's amazing.
Mhm.
Someone just sent me another thing that from that search, it's got a picture of Leslie Groves in there. You know who he is?
Mm-mm.
No, who's that?
He was the head of the Manhattan Project.
So I just sent this out to Becky and Jim.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lenny.
Right.
Thanks.
Jim Hemingway, did you have a question before we?
Yes, I
yeah,
did.
go ahead.
Would the installation of this water tank by the school actually lower the insurance rates for the school? Because it seems to me, I don't know if there's any good answer for this question, that insurance companies want to know if there are fire hydrants nearby. And of course, we have none of that in Shutesbury. And I'm not sure if a fire tank, a water tank would satisfy them in any way. Do we have any clarity on that one?
I'm
We
not
do
sure.
have fire hydrants in town, Jim.
What?
We do have fire hydrants in town.
That's a We do and we don't. We have standpipes, so they're not pressurized.
Well,
So depends on the insurance company, because sometimes insurance companies ask if it's a full-time department and what the rating is. And other times they ask, how close are you near to a water source? Are you within, they would probably put in like, say, 400 feet to a water source. So if we had a 30,000 gallon tank in the parking lot, we could say, yeah, we're within, 200 feet of a water source. So it depends on the insurance company, I think.
mhm.
Yeah. In terms of the rest of this list, Lenny, could you just give us a little background on kind of how you put this together? And this has the appearance of like you having kind of done a pretty thorough review of
Well,
current resources. And,
we can go to the top here. We got the rescue.
Mhm.
We use that on every medical call, every car crash. So we have
Mhm.
medical gear in it. We have car crash jaws. We have water rescue equipment on it. I think the year is 2020, and I think it'd be good for another 15 years. How much would a F550 cost for a replacement? And I figured 75. I think the town spent 60 or 65.
Mhm.
So I think we should get 15 years of service out of it. As for engine one, I know we only paid 425 or 435 for it just in 2016, but fire truck prices have gone completely insane.
Wow.
So I put 1.2. I mean, if we shop around, we're going to get different prices, but I do know I was told somebody just got a quote for our identical engine one, and they told me it was over $1 million.
Hmm.
So then we got engine two. That's our primary engine we use for fires. It failed the pump test last summer, and it's, we're getting closer to 30, we're 25. We're over 25
What
years
does
old.
that what does that mean to fail the pump test? Could you give us some info about
So
that?
there's several things on the pump. For the pump test, there's several things they do. They test it for a vacuum, and it failed the vacuum test, meaning the valves leak. The vacuum test
Mhm.
is important if we're trying to do a draft. So when we're trying to suck water off the lake, for example, if the pump doesn't hold a vacuum, it's harder to pull a draft, basically. The pumps can pump water pretty well, but they cannot pump air. If there's any air in the pump, it won't pump. It won't. If there's air and water in the pump really won't pump. So having a vacuum, failing a vacuum makes it more difficult to pull a draft. As for it flowing its rated capacity, it couldn't, and the engine overheated. So that was last summer. I had some more work done on it. They changed the thermostat. And what has came up, I know Walter in the past talked about rebuilding the truck, and I got a quote for $320,000 to rebuild engine two. I kind of feel that's good money after bad. I think when I look over the quote, we're paying $100,000 to get a paint job, and that's not going to really put a fire out, in my opinion. That $320,000 didn't cover a new engine or a new transmission or new wiring harness for that sort of lake, but it did cover about 50 grand for to rebuild the pump. So I'm thinking it might be better just to have the pump rebuilt and have engine two go for a number more years rather than paying $320,000 for a lot of money, and we're essentially still going to have a 30-year-old truck. So I don't think getting engine two rebuilt would be, I don't think that would be the best decision. I don't think.
Mhm.
So I put. I know Orange just bought a truck very similar to engine two, and they've spent almost $1 million for it. And I know New Salem just bought one that's similar to engine two for about $650. So that's why I put $750 to $950. We have brush one. That's our primary response for brush fires. And I put a dollar value of 65 grand for it just because that's what a 1-ton Ford pickup truck probably cost. I think it's good for a number of more years. We don't drive it that much. It's a brush fire. I kind of look at brush fires as not quite as serious as a structure fire or medical incident. So I think we can afford to have the truck be a little older and still be fine. We have brush 2. That's the Stuart Stevens, and that's a 97. We don't drive it too much, but we do use it. A lot of the other towns actually really like it because that's the only truck that can really go everywhere. So believe it or not, they want us to respond with that instead of the other one. But it's in good shape, so I put 15 years. I think it should be good for a while. Utility, yeah, I don't know the utility. The utility is a utility. It's got a battery drain on it, and it seems to eat batteries. And yeah, we don't use it very much, and it's hard to start. But we've used that was the old brush truck. So when we got a new rescue 2 years ago, we took the truck from the rescue and turned that into the brush truck. Then we turned the brush truck into the utility truck. So everything's kind of turned to be a hand-me-down type of thing. So that's where the utility stands. Then we got Chief's car, my car. I think the town spent 65 for it last year. How much was it?
55.
All right. Well, you're gonna have to spell check.
No,
Yeah.
it was only 50.
Okay.
It was only 50. And
Yeah, but it also was extra for lights and other stuff, right? Or is that included in the lights?
I think that
I think
included
he
the
got
package.
a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
I think that included the lights.
All right. Because that would be a thing. I should look it up. I was kind of quick to when I did that.
That one, because it was not a hybrid, and it was like the last one on the lot. So he got a good price.
Yep. So the other thing would be the SCBA. SCBAs, that's our breathing apparatus. We wear them going into a house. NFPA, per NFPA, they're not supposed to be more than 15 years old. And ours are 2016, so they already have 7 years on them. So in 8 years, we're going to have to look into buying them for a replacement. And they're roughly, I believe, around $7,000 a piece. We could look into getting them rebuilt possibly. I haven't heard of anybody doing that, but for the price, I would think at some point, some company might be able to rebuild them for cheaper and be NFPA compliant, but that's 8 years away. So, and then we have the SCBA compressor that that's a it's a high pressure air compressor, gets serviced every year. The air has got sampled and it fills up all the SCBA bottles. And I can't tell you how long that's going to last because we've got the association bought it used from another department. It doesn't have much hours on it, but I bet you that thing, I should look up on the age on that, but I bet you it's mid 90s. So yeah, it could go 5 or 10 years or it could kind of blow up, next month. So I can't exactly say anything on that.
He's okay.
So,
All right. All right. Well, this is super helpful. Is there another page to this, or is that the end of that?
I sent Becky, I sent you the same exact one, except it's got another line right under the bottom. And it's not very well done, but I just wrote it in 30,000 gallon.
For the water tank.
Euro already.
And I sent it to Capital Planning and Finance Committee.
What was the timing that you proposed on that, on the water tank? Did you put a specific time frame?
Yeah, before the parking lot gets paved.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Sooner the better, but yeah, definitely before the parking lot gets paved.
I'm wondering if Bob, I mean, we should talk with the committee about this, but I'm
Yeah, well,
wondering if
Lenny's coming to
that's,
see us, right?
yeah,
So come to see us, Lenny, in capital planning.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll be in touch, but I think, yeah, I think that,
Uh,
that,
couple
that might be a
questions.
project for this year. Go ahead, Bob.
Couple of questions,
then,
Lenny.
Go ahead.
One question is on our budget that we've been funding the water bottles right along, and we've incorporated that line for the water bottles into your budget that's funded by the town meeting. And so it's either going to be in capital planning or town meeting, but not both, because it's already in a budget line now for your kind of continuing budget. And we've now incorporated that into expenses, but it's still in there. So I don't see it being in the capital planning anymore because it's now being handled in your as an ordinary expense to replace those bottles.
So,
Take any-
hold on,
So funny.
the SCBA's are separate than the bottles.
Sorry.
The SCBA is not the breathing apparatus that's in the budget?
That is the breathing apparatus, but that's separate from the bottle itself.
Oh, it says equipment, SCBA air tanks 2 and 3 per year. That's what it says in the budget.
Yeah. But those are just the bottles. The SCBA's are the actual air pack, the whole pack assembly itself.
Okay, so it's a different part of the operation?
Yeah, so
So that's like the backpack that you use or something?
yeah, that would be the whole backpack. Just think of the SCBA bottles as a cordless tool battery, and we're buying batteries for the tool.
So they get plugged into the pack.
Yeah, so
Cool.
it's kind of like the pack is kind of the tool.
I understand that. So that was my question. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Jim Hemingway, I see your hand up. Is that from
Yes.
earlier or do you have a question?
Yes, Lenny, so you do recommend spending $50,000 on engine number 2 in order to give it another 3 to 5 years or maybe more. Is that correct?
That's what I feel. Yes.
Yeah, as opposed to spend a lot more on more decorative parts of the of engine number 2, I guess, which you felt is like throwing good money after bad. But the 50,000 would be you would recommend doing that to give a little bit more life to engine number 2.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the truck mechanically is decent.
Mhm.
I just don't think the town needs to spend $100,000 for a paint job.
Oh,
And we're
yeah.
not even getting a new engine or transmission. I mean, I just assume put a fair amount of money at the pump. I think the truck should be good for another five years.
Yeah, it isn't like these trucks have a lot of mileage on them, is it?
No, but sometimes sitting is just as bad because, you know, you got the seals, you let this vehicle sit outside for a year. You can definitely tell it sat outside for a year. So,
But these are
cars
inside
stay
though,
These
aren't
are
they?
inside heated space, right?
I know.
Yeah,
But
and
still, they are 20 they're over 20 years old.
Mhm.
One question I had for you, Lenny, was that when you do this rebuild, which I think is a great idea, you can evaluate the diesel engine and see if that's how that compression is and everything, right? Because the overheating may have been caused by running it too fast to try to compensate for the pump, right?
I believe the reason kind of why the engine overheated was the pump's propellers have eroded over time with the amount of sand we suck up.
Yeah.
So I think because they couldn't really maintain the volume and the pressure. So I believe it's more of the pumps. I believe the vanes on the pump are worn down personally.
Mhm.
That's great. Thanks.
Becky, could we find out, or could you find out whether putting in the tank, the water tank that Lenny is requesting by the school will actually lower our insurance rates, or whether we're just speculating about that? Can you determine
Emailed our insurance company.
what?
I already emailed our insurance company to ask.
Okay, but
Awesome.
we don't have a response back because it
No, I did it tonight during the discussion.
oh, okay, because if they say yes, then that makes that 30,000 a lot easier to spend.
There's another question with that, Lenny, which we should look into, which is, you said you're going to put it adjacent to the parking lot by the by where the turnaround is?
I would like to put it where Steve thinks is appropriate.
Because
So
there's a bunch of stuff going on there too. There's a diesel tank, there's a septic tank, and there's a leach field all in that general area. So those all have to be located before this is planned. This plan is really considered, quoted out and so forth,
yeah,
So Lenny, I think one thing that would be sort of helpful for you to just give some thought before you meet with capital planning is kind of what I think between engine 2 and the water tank at the school, which of those 2 projects is like you want to prioritize, and would one of them potentially be a project that we that we look to do in FY25, and if so, which one? So if you could give some thought to that before you.
yeah. I would say work on the truck, the pump first.
Yeah.
Because because we know when we go for mutual aid, if we're going to like Orange or Amherst with public water supply, they specify they're gonna want engine 2. And now it's like, well, engine 2 has a failed pump test, so it's,
Right.
I'd rather have the pump work
That's
done.
more urgent need.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Susie.
I think it's also important to consider the, not only the cost of the tank and the insurance savings, but the safety issue. And of course, the whole thing about fire protection is that you can sort of decide safety is not the big issue because it hasn't happened yet. But I do believe this understanding that it's a wooden structure makes another point for why you would put the tank in. And $30,000 seems like an amount we could spend for added safety and better insurance.
Yeah. Okay. Any final questions for Lenny before we let him go? Okay. Really appreciate the time, and I really appreciate I think a couple things in particular, the update you shared with us about applying for that grant for turnout gear. That was great news to hear that. Really appreciate it. And then the kind of thoroughness with which you laid out these long-term capital needs is like really helpful work for both FinCom and capital planning. So thanks, Lenny.
Yeah. I mean, these are good faith numbers in a way.
Right.
So, and again, it's if we went for a fire truck 2 years ago to this year, like it's like they've been going up like $100,000 to $200,000 every year, it seems like. So, these are good faith numbers, and again, they're going to be completely different when it comes, down to when we have to really truly replace it.
Yeah, right. I mean, some of these things you're like 15 years from now, so it's understood that that those cost figures are kind of based on.
Yeah, I should have put more of a replacement value for this year and put the year on that.
Right.
That's what I should have done.
I think it was sort of understood, but yeah.
Isn't that what you normally do in the capital planning committee? Would it be based on current today's dollars as opposed to sometime in the future, the dollars in the future?
That's a really good question.
Replacement costs. We try to estimate replacement costs.
Yeah.
We know that a lot of times things are a lot cheaper in the future, but we try to cover that.
Right.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Lenny. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks.
Good
Yeah,
night.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, great. Jim Walton, thanks for working with Lenny too. I mean, I think this process went really well today.
Yeah, we had a good couple sessions. It was he He's grasping it. He's compared to a year ago. I remember the budget review a year
Yeah,
ago.
I'm impressed. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I think what we want to do now is look at November 14th minutes.
Mhm. So-
If folks can,
So I'll move to
look
accept
at
the
that.
minutes from November 14th. I can find them again.
I did not have any suggestions myself, so I'm going to second that. Does anybody have any further discussion about the November 14th minutes? Any suggestions, any questions about it? All right. Let's go ahead and vote to approve these as written then.
Make a motion that we approve the
Problem
minutes
with
as
this.
written.
I think April's already
Oh,
made that
okay.
motion, so I think we're ready to just vote. Yeah,
Groves,
so you can start us.
Groves, aye.
Hemingway abstain.
Cashew, eye.
Mosier, aye.
Fine, aye.
Walton, I.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you,
Thanks,
Susie.
Susie.
Yeah.
Minutes are approved. Okay. So I think the only other items on our agenda are project updates. Becky, do you have any updates for us? You gave us one on the building committee, but should we do?
The update I have is that on Friday, last Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, we actually paved the culvert. It actually happened after, I think, 6 or
Yes.
7 adjusted dates, so that felt good. It was touch and go. The temperatures had dropped, and the highway department prepped and covered the prep where the blacktop was going to go with tarps the night before, 130 by 30 feet of tarps they secured. So when they came in the morning and pulled back the tarps, it was dry and ready to pave.
Cool.
It was great. But it still
Awesome.
took an
Terrific.
extra 3 hours because they only sent 3 trucks and they were truck short, but that's this project. Everything takes a little bit longer, but it happened.
How many years has that been in the making?
3, well, in the total making,
Mhm.
the first grant I think I wrote in 12-14.
Wow.
Wow. It's
Amazing.
as smooth as butter. It's really.
Hey, it's done. It's not
The good
going
news,
anywhere.
it's brand new. It's brand new. So would have been 5
Yeah.
years old by now.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
That project is gonna linger for a while with me, AJ. I can't even think of anything else right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I get it. All right. Okay, any committee updates? Susie.
The school committee was not able to meet 2 weeks ago. They're gonna meet this Thursday. And they have a lot of moving parts to consider. And I have seen in the news that Irving is meeting to figure out if they want to stay in the union. But that ambiguity really makes it tough to plan a budget, because one thing that we encourage and are happy with when they share services with other schools, and now that is under change if they move.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of moving parts, and I will be at the meeting on Thursday, and then we can have a discussion. I think that we will, as a committee, sort of look at our timeline and figure out if we need to meet, if we have enough time to have an adequate discussion, or if we need a little extra
Mhm.
meeting time for discussion. And then
Okay.
the next game is in, now I've forgotten. We put them in on the 30th of
January 30th, yeah.
January. And so I think we're gonna see some of these same pressures on the regional school budget, which we will be talking about on the 16th
Yeah.
of December.
Yeah.
So this is not a vacuum. This is the way it is. It has to do with ESSER funds and teacher contracts, and in this case, the other wild card of who's in the union and who's gonna, how are we gonna meet those service needs?
And how do you hire a superintendent when you don't know how many towns are in the union?
Right.
Yeah.
Susie, there just,
Mm.
there must be a limit to how long Irving, just from their own standpoint, from their own interest, they can't put this off much longer.
Well, I know they're meeting. I don't know what their timeline is. I could maybe find out if our school committee has an idea of how that's gonna shake out. And I'll know that on Thursday.
I guess, I mean, what are the steps involved? Do we even know? Like, is the Irving School Committee going to make kind of a recommendation about how to proceed? And who knows?
They might be kind of naive about this because, you know, I'm sure that it involves talking with the state.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yeah,
you
right,
know, this may be a therapeutic exercise more than a functional exercise.
right,
Yeah, I
right,
think
right.
Well,
Yeah,
isn't there a
symbolic,
written,
yeah.
isn't there a written contract between all parties in the union? No.
I don't know that we can
Well,
spend any time speculating on this
handshake.
because it's
Right.
just too wild. And it
Yeah.
isn't our burden. It's just,
Right.
we're just collateral damage.
Right, but we will experience
Yeah,
consequences, yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Mm.
Any other committees meet and have updates? Oh, I've already forgotten when we're meeting with capital planning.
It's the 11th or the
recall?
16th. I think it's the 16th. No, the 11th of December, right? I'll look at my calendar.
16th is Saturday, that's the
Okay, so
reason.
then it
That's
must be
the
the 11th.
11th. Yeah, you're right. I see it. Actually, yeah, I
Monday.
got it on my calendar. Yeah. Okay. So we'll have an update at our next meeting on the 12th. Okay, and everybody got the invite for the 16th, the Four Towns meeting? Okay.
We have such a
everybody-
busy agenda on the 12th. We might, if we have any talking to do or thinking to do about the 16th, we might want to do it right now.
Yeah, I
But
think
it's gonna
Susie.
be an information one.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that like we're not going to have a lot to discuss right until we see whatever documents Doug Slaughter has sort of prepared and is going to be sharing. Like that's usually our sort of clue as to kind of how that meeting is going to proceed. Like there's
Right.
budget, there's sort of preliminary budget information, and then there's an agenda for the meeting. And I suspect we're not going to have that by the 12th. I mean, my memory from last year was that those documents came like the day before the 4 times.
AJ,
Something like that.
Yeah.
Steve
Yeah.
Sullivan last year received some of the preliminary documents before we did, and we were able to get them from him. So maybe you could ask the regional.
Yeah. So
person on
that's
our
a
committee.
good suggestion, Bob. I'm going to reach out to Anna, right? Anna? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I've actually been meaning to do that. So let me connect with her and let her know that if she, whatever information she has about what's going to be happening and how that meeting is going to be structured on the 16th, if she can share that with us. And certainly if she has any materials that are going to be disseminated in advance of that meeting. Okay, I'll do that. All right. Any other updates or news or anything that folks wanted to bring up before we adjourn?
Nope.
I want people to be mindful that the select board has scheduled a special town meeting for January 16th.
January 16th.
Okay, a Tuesday. All right.
Down, yeah. What?
And the warrant. So the 12th, is it gonna, so you guys typically have to go through the warrant and vote on financial items.
Mhm.
I believe the warrant has to get posted by the 19th.
Of December?
Yes,
Wow, okay. So that means we're gonna have to discuss this on the 12th, right?
right.
Maybe we can move the police off the 12th. And just have the school committee and the warrant.
Well, we also had library, right, on the 12th? Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. Well,
wonder-
Becky, I mean, do you think there are going to be draft warrants for us to actually
Well,
look at on the 12th?
Uh,
if I get them done for the 5th,
Okay.
yeah, there'll definitely be draft warrants, but I want to make sure the
Okay.
select board has seen them.
Right.
We might have to schedule. Yeah. Let me
Becky?
check the select board. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, Jim, what?
You are aware that the MLP has a warrant that they'd like it to be put, a financial one that needs to be put with the others?
Has anyone
Yeah.
sent it to me?
I thought Gail had written you about this. It's a simple one, doesn't require much discussion. It's just that we have to get the town voters to authorize us to get access to the to the funds that are in, what do you call it? I forget the term.
Oh, and that's it. It's basically your free cash account. You
Yeah.
need to access them to pay for all the wiring that you're doing.
No, well, it's the retained earnings that are now, we now know what they are. The state has approved them, and we simply need a vote from the town to be able to use them, which we can't do until town voters say yes to that. It's very simple. We have to do it every year. Get a vote put through.
And usually you do it at annual. You need to do it.
Well, usually at annual, but of course we now know what that amount is, and if there is a vote, we can therefore apply it and use it. Otherwise, it'll just sit there and we can't touch it, which is true for free cash as well, until it's approved by the state, as you know.
I'm not seeing anything from Gail in the since November. So
Well,
if you
I'll-
could ask Gail to forward me what you're talking about,
Okay, all right.
unless I find it something first.
I-
I'll email the
I-
committee if I find something, but
Yeah.
no, I was totally
I'm
unaware.
certain she said she sent it to you, but who knows, I'll remind her.
That would be great if it was.
On our calendar, we have December 26th open, and we have January 16th open because the elementary school moved to the 30th.
Except that's
Yeah.
now a town meeting night.
That's
Oh, right. That's great.
So I'm glad nothing big
Yeah.
was planned.
yeah. I mean, I think the question is do we want to make any changes to our planned agenda for the 12th, our next meeting, given we've got kind of a pile of topics we need to cover that night.
Jim, I found it.
I'll tell you.
Sorry for interrupting. I found it.
No
Oh,
problem.
you did?
Okay.
It came in right Thanksgiving.
Oh,
My
Quick
hope,
question,
even though we
Becky.
have a. Oh yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Just a quick question, Becky. The town meeting is going to be regarding the funding of legal lines, right? Is that the main reason for this town meeting?
Yes.
So, and Jim's is a procedural thing. It's a very simple matter. It's going to be not controversial at all. My guess is. So this won't require a lot of discussion by us, will it? Or will
It will.
it? Okay, you're guaranteeing it will.
No, it'll be the meeting, the special town meeting will be heated, but yeah, you're right.
I mean,
We-
our
we
meeting,
won't
review
have,
it.
our meeting won't have a lot.
Right.
Right,
Mhm.
so I think we could fit it in our regular meeting because it's not gonna take me a lot of time to review
Okay.
these.
So,
You're
all right,
okay.
yeah, let's move forward. Just if, I think on the 12th, I might sort of like try to move us along, just because we do have a lot. So I'll try to keep us on track. And for right now, we are planning to do budget reviews for the library, the police department. We'll look at these draft warrants and vote on whether to recommend approval of them.
Okay.
And we will possibly have a preliminary discussion about the school budget and just generating some questions that we will kind of filter through Susie to ask the finance director. So that is a lot, but we'll do the best we can. My hope is actually that we can not schedule anything on the 26th. We got it on our calendar as an open date. I don't know what my plans are going to be personally that week, but I have a feeling that it's going to be a tough one. So I mean, we'll see. But that's my reluctance in just saying, let's go ahead and just push the police department to the 26th. I'm not positive way.
So in
It's
my
gonna be happening
notes,
that week,
did
so.
you end up saying police department on the 12th? Or are we gonna move them out into like the 30th of January?
I mean, I think that would be the only other really good option. Push them out to the 30th.
It might be
January, you're right.
possible to put them in the treasurer assessor night, because generally those are pretty cut and dry. I don't know.
They are cut and dry, but they're just so many like actual budgets, right? I mean that like Ryan brings usually. So I'm not sure that that they are that quick. I don't know. Is it crazy to just kind of leave police on for the 12th and we'll just know that we're going to have a packed meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can move us along.
Yeah. I think let's do that.
All right.
So let's leave it as planned and we'll just we'll just power through it. All right. I'll make a motion that we adjourn our meeting for tonight.
Second.
Okay.
Groves,
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Cyanide.
Walton, I.
All right. Good night.
Okay, thanks everyone.
night all.
Thank you,
Good
everyone.
night.
Have
Y'all
a
have a
good
good evening.
evening.
You too.
You.
Night.
Aye.
Bye, Jim.